At 8:46 that morning when the first plane hit, I was around the corner in the lobby of my local high school voting. It was a New York City primary election day. We heard this muffled thud. It was not alarming. Then we went out on the street and there were papers flying hundreds of feet up. Really freaky because there was no wind. I ran home. My neighbors are all out in the hallway saying, papers on fire or landing on the windowsill, what happened? And the reason that we didn't know is because we live so close to the South Tower that we couldn't see around it. So even though we're just a few hundred yards away, we can't see it. My aunt calls me up. She says, they're saying on the television that a plane hit the North Tower, but that's the one away from you guys, right? So you're okay. And for 17 minutes, we were okay. And then that second plane came screaming up from the south and into the South Tower. We ran to our windows in time to see the fireball. Big things immediately were falling off the building. We're on the top floor. So my sweetheart said, you know, we should go down lower in the building. Something could come right through the roof. We went down to our neighbors on the third floor, and we were sitting around their kitchen table, all of us trying to figure out what to do, when my neighbor looked out the window and saw the top of the South Tower start to tilt. He yelled, here it comes, get in the back room. We ran into their back room because it had no windows, crouched on the floor, and expected to die. It was a 110-story building falling down across the street from our little 12-story building. There was a roar of noise. All the windows were being blown out in the kitchen right next door. You could not hear that. It was just a roar. The building shook from things hitting it. The ground shook from the force of the collapse. The weirdest thing was it felt like my head was being squeezed in and out. Later, they explained to me that as that building pancaked down, it was generating pressure waves in the air. So that's what I was feeling. We made an attempt to get out. I was panicked. I would have run. But like Greg said, pitch black. You could see things on fire. So the guys said, stop. We'll get into more trouble climbing over flaming debris. We should just go back inside the building. We went back inside. Half an hour later, the North Tower came down. We had no signal of any kind. We did not know what was happening. By 11:30 in the morning, the air had cleared enough for us to see. So we left the building. We went south, which was the only way open. There was debris in every other direction. We had to go about 4 blocks until we got to a building that still had its windows intact because all the perimeter windows just got blown out. It was a warm day. I was wearing a shirt just like this one, and I kept trying to brush dirt off my shirt. We got inside, and I finally looked closely and realized it was pinhole burns. At 11:30 in the morning, there was still enough molten material flying around to land on our clothes and burn through. So I started to laugh that I was trying to brush burn marks off my shirt, and I heard my voice start to go hysterical. And I thought, I know how many people work in those buildings. There are so many more people in so much more trouble than I am right now. I cannot add to the chaos of this day by losing control. I didn't look anyone in the eye for the rest of that day because I just would have lost it. We ended up with friends who live on Canal Street. We made our way up to Canal Street, and after 2 weeks, we were contacted and told that we would be allowed a 15-minute police-escorted visit back into our building. By that time, there was a perimeter fence up around the area, so we had to meet at a checkpoint. They swung the fence open. I walked down my street and just wept again. The high school where I had been voting had morgue spray painted on the side. They had to use the cafeteria freezers and refrigerators as temporary morgue space. In the immediate aftermath of 9/11, I thought, there's no way I'm ever going to live in that building again. This entire area was a graveyard to me, and it was just too sad. But after 15 months, which is how long it took them to allow us to move back there, they had everything cleaned up, and I was in a survivor support group. I thought moving back is going to be my way of remembering all those people that I waited online at the bank with, that I got my coffee in the morning with, just all those regular people who went to work that day. And it has been a way of remembering. Judith mentioned that I'm a pet sitter, and this being New York City, I am so specialized, I only take care of people's pet birds. No dog walking, no cat litter, just birds. That day I had 8 birds in my care. I could not figure out how we were going to get them out. Nat stacked up the little travel cases, borrowed sheets from our neighbor, made these bundles, and then he hung the bundles off of a broomstick that he carried over his shoulders. So we left the building looking like every picture of fleeing refugees you've ever seen with parrots. The last thing I'm going to tell you guys is after 9/11, I had to get my first cell phone because we're bouncing around different places. Of course, family and friends are calling every day, but also every client who ever dropped their bird off with me across the street from the South Tower is trying to call me. Are you okay? Do you need anything? Are the birds all right? The result of this was that first cell phone bill was over $600. I work from home. I have no home to work from. I freaked out. And my friend said, you know, the city has concentrated all the services for 9/11 victims up on Pier 94. Maybe someone could help you. I went up there. They directed me to an organization called Safe Horizons, which was the local United Way. I sat down at this temporary desk across the table from a guy hunched over a laptop. He asked me my address. He put it in his computer, whatever Google map came up. He looked at me and said, bring us the bill. We'll pay it. Done. That money came from everyone who was calling those telethons, everyone who sent donations, cards, letters, prayers, gifts. It all came here to New York. I know some of you guys did. And this is my chance to say it came here and helped people like me. Thank you.